It was supposed to be a simple drive through the desert night, a journey from one end of the vast emptiness to another. Under the silvery glow of the moon, the world stretched infinitely, silent and still. But in the midst of that isolation, a heavy, uneasy presence began to seep into the air. Something was watching. As the driver pressed forward, the engine sputtered, and the car rolled to a stop. Alone, under the vast desert sky, the silence pressed in, thick and unforgiving. Far from any sign of life, the air grew heavier, darker. The driver stepped out, feeling a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. A gust of wind swept across the desert, carrying with it faint whispers. They seemed to dance through the air, calling, beckoning. It wasn't long before the driver realized, with a chill running down their spine, that the whispers were calling their name. Then, in the distance, a shadow emerged, barely visible at the edge of the moonlight. Human-shaped but unsettlingly still, it watched. The driver froze, heart pounding as they locked eyes with the figure, unsure if they were truly seeing something or if the desert had begun to play tricks. The figure began to move. Slowly, deliberately, it glided closer, its form silhouetted against the night sky. The driver stood rooted in place as fear gripped them. Whatever this thing was, it was unlike anything they had seen before, as though it came from another realm. Closer now, the figure towered over them, a tall, robed form with faintly glowing eyes piercing the darkness. It was a jinn, ancient and powerful. Every instinct told the driver to run, but they were paralyzed, held captive by the entity's presence. Without moving its lips, the jinn spoke. Its voice resonated through the desert as though the sand and sky were whispering its words. The driver listened in terror, unable to comprehend what they were hearing, yet knowing the warning was real and dire. The jinn's eyes flared with intensity, and the very air around them seemed to distort, bending under the weight of its power. The driver felt its words press upon them, a warning that they couldn't ignore, a warning that they couldn't fully understand. The desert seemed darker, as though all light was swallowed by the jinn's presence. With a subtle wave of its hand, the jinn brought the car back to life. The headlights flickered, the engine roared, and for a moment, relief washed over the driver. Yet, the jinn remained, standing behind them as a silent reminder of the night's events. Even with the car running, they felt far from safe. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the jinn began to dissolve into the night, its form turning into wisps of smoke that drifted with the wind. The driver watched, trembling, feeling the full weight of their encounter sink in. The jinn was gone, but its warning remained, a whisper in the night. The driver sped down the empty highway, eyes wide, heart racing. The desert stretched out endlessly ahead, but it felt as though something was still following, lurking just beyond the reach of the headlights. Every shadow, every flicker seemed to carry the jinn's watchful gaze. As the car disappeared into the night, the desert lay silent once more. The wind carried a final whisper, a reminder of the jinn's warning. Though they had escaped, something lingered in the desert, ancient and patient, waiting for the next traveler to wander into its domain.